My roommates blame me for causing a rift just because I tried to set boundaries.
You go, girl. Set those boundaries.
Set those boundaries. Me, 21 female, and my roommate Fern, 21 female, have been in conflict with our other two roommates, Garrett, 20 male, and Lewis, 22 male, while living together. I am not a jack-o'-lantern. My name is Lewis. Me, Fern, and Lewis are autistic, and Garrett has ADHD. Most of us are diagnosed with either anxiety and depression, and Garrett is suspected to have them too, but isn't confirmed. You guys all just suspect. You're like, yeah, he's probably
He just hasn't gotten diagnosed.
peer reviewed.
There you go.
By the way, this comes from Available Crow 9547 on the OK Storytime subreddit. So we became friends due to being in the same course during the first year of university and quickly made the decision to live together for the next year. We moved into a pretty decent uni accommodation and all was well for the first couple of months living in the same space. We cooked group meals, the chores were split evenly, and generally money that was owed was paid back quickly. It went downhill when my physical health went downhill suddenly. I couldn't eat much outside of a few staple bland meals, so I spent most of my time holed up in my room. Chores broke down quickly and they stopped making group meals. Mostly because Fern felt bad I couldn't eat what they made. It didn't help Fern was battling constantly with debilitating migraines and illnesses back to back. Slowly, I got better and started resuming my previous shenanigans. I had become the de facto meal planner, so me and Fern tag team dinners together. For the most part, they ate what we cooked because I was still on a strict diet for my health. For example, no acidic foods. Usually the things they suggested weren't safe for me to eat, so we always chose an alternative. I remember one time Garrett suggested a tomato chicken dish and we shot it down. And he asked us indignantly why we couldn't before being reminded that I was still sick. If the group meal stuff isn't working, just cook your own stuff.
Yeah, that's all
No one's stopping you. It's important to say that they always had the choice to cook themselves and we never pressured them into group meals.
There you go.
Literally, the solution is just cook your own food.
Yeah.
Even though me and Fern were ill, cooking and cleaning became our responsibility because nothing would get done if we didn't step up to do it. Group meals weren't planned if we didn't plan them. Dishes wouldn't get washed for days, even though we were the ones who slaved at the stove for hours. And bins would be full of things until it overflowed, despite Garrett insisting he'll do them. It felt as if there was a hidden expectation for us to do stuff despite being ill, and if we didn't, they'd give us an attitude. So we stopped washing their dishes, still doing small things like cups, just not if their stuff took up the majority. We stopped meal planning and cooking and buying food. The person who had the most problem with me is Garrett. We were friends originally, but over the course of being in close proximity to him, I've gained a bit of a sore spot at the mere mention of his name. Here are some of the things that have rubbed me the wrong way. He wouldn't do much around the shared areas, but the things he did do, he'd hold over our heads like it was worthy of an Olympic medal. He cooked once, but the entire time he asked me to do simple things like where the recipe was in our group chat. He would complain about his leg acting up, but whenever we told him to go to a doctor, he would refuse. It got in the way of group food shopping, doing the dishes, etc., but it didn't get in the way of standing all day for a job or going out in the weekend, so it just got in the way when he needed to do some chores.
Of course.
He's only recently got it checked out and started complaining about physio for it, which he likely hasn't done either. Once he complained me and Fern didn't do the dishes in the sink. We had been going around their pile and just doing ours as an act of defiance. Shouted through the walls at Fern for multiple reasons. One time Garrett shouted and banged on their connecting walls because she told him to lower his volume when talking to his online friends, which he does until 2 a.m. Another time he was coughing and Fern woke up and asked about it, which prompted more wall hitting and shouting that it wasn't him. It was a ghost? It was a ghost?
Must have been.
We didn't let him use some eggs that we had bought for baking, forcing him to go outside to buy his own, which he promptly labeled with his name. After he left for home, we noticed the eggs, still in date at that point, had been broken into the food bin. Only paid us back for all the food shops we'd done after he gained extra money unrelated to his job, despite us knowing he had enough money. Where did it go? To all the outings he went to. All the clothes and merch he bought. On the topic of money, he would always complain how he didn't have enough money, when in reality, it's just because he doesn't like going below a certain amount, think 500 pounds. He interrupts conversations all the time just to talk about himself or his online friends. He once asked me and Fern what we were talking about because he was too busy in a call with said friends despite being in the same room as us. He criticizes our food habits despite him eating like trash for the times we didn't cook for them. Think worse than canned soup. When we stopped planning meals with them, instead of pushing to be involved, Garrett liaised with Lewis to create their own meal plans. The bin bins. They constantly forgot and blamed it on their mental health, despite it being the only chore I expressly said I wouldn't do. I washed the dishes, cleaned the countertops, mopped the floor, cleaned the oven. He'd leave the food bin until it was moldy and couldn't close, leaving Fern to wash it every time. I think they have a chore chart, but you need to, if you don't, definitely get a chore chart and be like, dude, this is your job.
Yeah, this is all you. No excuses.
He got snappy when my partner reminded him of his duties because he took his bedroom bins down, but not the clearly full kitchen bins. Personally, I love a certain toxic game because of the cool character designs, and I love info dumping about them, but whenever I did that, I was met with indifference. However, when Lewis got into the game, he would excitedly engage in the talks like I hadn't shown them the exact same things mere weeks prior. Yeah, I will say for that one. Sometimes they don't get the excitement until they do it. A side note to say that because I associated myself with Garrett, my reputation in the course had fallen because everyone hated him for one reason or another. So I know I'm not alone in this resentment, at least. Fern also hates him for a lot of the above reasons. Now to present day, we're stuck in this tenancy in the same flat because of money incentive and the fact we decided this before the rift started. We've only been back here for a couple of weeks and are trying to adjust to being back here. We learned through Lewis that Garrett had discussed a flat meeting with him, not us as a group. We have a group chat. After finding this out, Fern took initiative and told them to start it at that moment to get it over with, despite us being exhausted from an emergency the night before. The conversation lasted 40 minutes and is summarized as such. Them feeling like the group had split off into me and Fern and Garrett and Lewis. Makes sense because me and Fern spent our time cooking together a whole year. One apology for making conversations about himself and his online friends. Realizing that things were bad only after him and his online friends got into a fight. Called me and Fern hypocrites for not communicating better about cooking and washing dishes. Even though when we did, we were promised things would be done, but it would sit another few days until we did it. Garrett and Lewis said the meal planning document was hard to access, even though it was a basic Google link and pinned to our chat. Garrett getting a therapist over the summer and promising us that things would get better. Garrett having an issue with me because I began ignoring his presence in the room when he entered and stopping my conversation. I was honestly sick of him interrupting all the time. He wanted to talk privately with me, which I really don't want because I don't think this will change anything. Fern was the main one speaking, and most of it consisted of agreeing or appeasing statements, since I absolutely didn't want to speak up. I haven't spoken to Garrett in months, more than a few passing sentences. We didn't say much to conflict with them because we were honestly scared of the consequences. After all, we have to live with them another year. That sucks. During the meeting, Garrett suggested we start over, and Fern suggested we cook a group meal together as a test to sort of make peace with them. Then Garrett got sick on the day we were cooking and didn't end up participating, despite not helping or paying with the dinner. He privately messaged Fern telling her that he would take a portion later. When she answered that it had been frozen already and that it was unfair that he got a portion when he didn't help, he said it was unfair that sick people didn't get anything. This annoyed us both because me and Fern had been chronically ill for months and we were still expected to cook, and when I was sick, they didn't do anything for me. Fern was the one buying me food when I couldn't leave the flat, and I owe her everything for that. Fern and you are power team.
Yeah, we like them together.
But we owe you everything if you join us live every weekday at 3 p.m. PST on YouTube. Just tap our profile.
Just tap it.
Nowadays, we're keeping the peace barely. Fern still has to talk to Garrett because he's under the illusion that all was forgiven between them. Like having ADHD and anxiety excuses being a wiener, and I still barely acknowledge their existence. Anyway, large rant over. I still don't think there's anything to salvage this sinking ship other than to wait it out until graduation. And that is the end of that story.
That is the end.
Yeah, I wish you luck, and I hope that you're able to get out of this soon. And you never have to deal with Garrett and Lewis ever again.
I'm glad that you have a partner in crime.
Me too.
With Fern. Love her.
Love Fern. Fern.
Yeah. But yeah, seems like you know how to handle it.
Yeah, you're figuring it out.
Yes.
And I wish you the best.
Wish you the absolute best, OP.
But that is the end of that story.
Woohoo!
And the end of this episode.
What?
So if you love us, make sure to subscribe.
We love you.
And see you tomorrow.